Thank you, Rabbi Berman. I'd like to ask Marcy Syms to please come up and introduce our guest speaker, Steve Lipman.
Good evening. It's so nice to be here, really, for so many reasons, and particularly because this is the first time I've been in a room with more than 4 people. And it's very exciting.
Dig right into it.
Okay. And it was great coming here to Teaneck and see all the magnolias and the dogwoods and the beautiful flowers on the table. And I feel a bit of the steam has been taken away from what I was going to say in my introduction of Steve Lipman, because I really made my remarks around the idea of inspiration and aspiration. And reflecting upon that, the aspiration is inner. You aspire to something that's between you and you. And what you learn and where you take your inspiration from is external. My father, Syms, was a great inspiration to me. Not only did he exemplify the love of family, the love of Jewish learning and ethics, but the love of community. And someone who very much is in that mold and has conducted his life in that way, as President Berman said, that there's no shame in being financially successful. We want our communities to thrive. And certainly Cy felt that way. And Mr. Lipman can be very proud of being one of the handful of investment bankers that has the same friends in his address book than he had 15, 20 years ago, and he hasn't changed his cell phone number. And that's due to good business ethics. And I'm sure that Steve Lipman, who I met years ago during a difficult time for the company, is someone who would be an inspiration to all of you, and that's why I'm so pleased that he agreed to come here tonight and speak with us and share some of that experience to inspire us so that we can aspirationally seek the highest form of success. Steve?
Quite kind, Marcy. Thank you. All right. Right into it. So, thank you, Marcy. Wow, it is amazing to be here. I will say it's the first time I've really gotten dressed in, I can't tell you how long. I didn't think I'd ever feel great to put a shirt and tie on, but it really did feel great. I'm going to pick up a lot on where Rabbi Berman or President Berman was, and I am a 35-year veteran plus of Wall Street. I don't like to count the years anymore. I've spent my entire career in investment banking. I started right out of college at Bear Stearns and rose through the ranks. I would have most likely spent my entire career at Bear Stearns, but it blew up. So after it blew up during 2008, I had to find a new firm. I went to Bank of America very briefly and then spent the last 12 years at Rothschild. And over my career, I've held a number of positions. I ran Rothschild's U.S. operations. I've covered various industries. I've sat on the board of a number of companies, a number of nonprofit organizations, chaired the board of a Jewish day school, and currently chair the board of a school for inner city boys. Maybe I'll just start out. I think most of the people here understand, but I can't say everybody out there on the web watching understands. 2-second overview just of what investment banking really is. And in short, it's the area of Wall Street where we create new things. It could be a new stock, i.e. an IPO. It could be a new issue of bonds, another form of a loan. We also, as I say, decreate or uncreate things, which is when two companies merge, one company's stock disappears, or just selling a company and changing that company in for cash and the shareholders walk away with cash. In my role, what's really important is to understand how companies are valued, how investors think, what investors will buy. We work with companies to help them raise money, or maybe just find a way to give money back to the shareholders and the likes. But in a nutshell, when you boil it down, the real focus of what we do is helping companies maximize their value. Maximize the value for the owners or the stakeholders. We don't manage money, we don't pick stocks, we don't sell anything. There are other areas of Wall Street that do all those things. In all honesty, I've never spoken to an investor about buying a stock or anything, probably other than my mother. So as somebody who's trained for over 35 years in helping others maximize value, I've given a lot of thought on how to maximize the value of my career, and I'll share those thoughts with you today. In historical Wall Street parlance, maximizing value has always been judged in dollars and cents, period. More recently, we're seeing a lot about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, coming into play as part of the discussion too. As most of you are about to embark on your careers in the business world, you need to think about how you're going to maximize your value. As a business person, maybe as a family member, maybe as a parent, maybe as a member of your community. And all of those are tied together, and that's what I'm going to talk about. A lot of press lately about how young bankers get abused and work all the time. Corporate slavery is a term I've heard recently used about some Wall Street firms. Maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm naive, but I read these articles and I'm pretty perplexed. I do understand the desire for work-life balance, but I also know where you put your efforts in is where you get your results in life. Hard work is not unique to the banking world. I'd venture to say that virtually all successful people have gone all in and have worked extremely hard to become successful in whatever it is. Professional athletes don't just show up on game day. They work hard every day. And my wife's an entrepreneur. She owns a large dress manufacturer, and she works like a banker, trust me. My clients are CEOs. They work extremely hard too. Personally, I think the people complaining are not really complaining about the hours they work. They're complaining about what they've gotten out of the program. I think if they were getting what they thought they would get, they'd work even harder. Fortunately for me, growing up, there was a lot to get out of my career, and I'm not just speaking in monetary terms. Yes, people in banking are paid well. That's not a surprise to any of you. But for most young bankers, the real rewards come from learning, being mentored, and being in an environment filled with bright people. If your sole goal is to make a lot of money and you have no passion for your work, no commitment to the culture of your firm, and not being part of your community, my gut is that you may be rich someday, but I doubt you'll ever be happy. I was very fortunate to grow up in a firm where senior bankers led by example. They do at most firms, but unlike in school, there's no textbook or blackboard to follow. You have to observe and learn. It's an apprenticeship, as is much of life. The senior people worked hard. They were hungry, they hustled, and they mingled with the titans of industry and politics. As a junior bankers, we worked hard, and a lot of what we did was boring, just downright boring. But we felt productive, like we were contributing. We knew we were part of a team trying to win something. While the senior bankers were bigger than life in the eyes of the junior bankers, we found ways to include ourselves. And note, very importantly, I didn't say the senior bankers found ways to include us. We found ways to include ourselves. We found ways to grab tidbits of senior bankers' thoughts. Sort of learning through osmosis is what I call it. It was like being at home with your family and we were the kids, in bit of awe of our parents, but if you kept your eyes and ears open, you actually learned something. We weren't given a lot of kudos and a lot of pats on the back, but we were thrilled to be in an environment where we could gain insight into how these senior bankers were thinking, as well as how our clients, who are generally very successful CEOs, were thinking. While not usually expressed in words, we were appreciated and we knew we were needed. In time, we got to know the seniors bankers and they got to know us. We had to earn their respect. Of course, there were those junior bankers who viewed their work as a task. You gave somebody something to do, they did it, handed it in, and went home. They didn't want to see that bigger picture. They didn't view their job as an opportunity to absorb everything around that was happening. In their minds, they did that was asked, and that was fine. I can tell you those are people who feel the hours are horrible and the job is horrible. But those of us who went all in got so much out of it, way more than learning about finance. We actually learned about life in the office. A story comes to mind that when I was a senior banker's office and someone called, I was there going through this deck that I had spent hundreds of hours putting together. The banker took the call instead of listening to me. He wasn't focusing on me. I wasn't upset. I knew my place. Turns out the person on the other end of the phone with his vice chairman, they were going to go to the Knick game that night. He canceled, the client. The vice chairman asked me if I'd like to join him at the Knick game. And next thing I know, this 60-year-old guy and 25-year-old kid were going to the Knick game together. At halftime, he took me to some private club in Madison Square Garden. I've still been trying to find my way back to this club. It was the who's who of the world. I was in total awe. I was standing with Governor Pataki, Larry Tisch, who I think most of you know is a billionaire, the CEO of IBM, and this vice chairman. Mickey Tarnopol was his name. And Mickey turns to the three of them and says, "You guys know my partner, Steve Lipman, don't you?" He not only introduced me as his partner, but said it like who these people were bigger than life to me are supposed to know me. It was amazing. I have no clue what happened in the game, who won, who lost, and I'm a huge Knick fan. And it wasn't because of these people I met. It was because I really felt like a partner at 25 years old. This would have never happened if I walked out of Mickey's office when the phone call came in because I was too busy. I wanted my work. No, it's okay. So I'd work an extra 2 hours that night. That's the way life is. But I knew I had earned Mickey's respect. Bear Stearns was a special place. It was run by a legend, Ace Greenberg, during most of my tenure. And no one was more focused on making money than Ace, trust me. It's why we came to work every day, and he reminded of that every day. But the culture of his firm was way more lasting impression on my life. It was a collection of super bright people. People who worked there because we thought we could make a difference. We thought we could go out and win. You got to win business. And in order to win business, you have to have an impact. Nobody defined impact as just making money. We were taught to earn respect through hard work and using our smarts. We were not winning business at Bear Stearns based on our business card. We knew we weren't Goldman Sachs. We were small, but competed with the bigger banks that were better capitalized firms. We knew we had to be better bankers and better people. Ace didn't believe in corporate giving. Just like it was up to each of us to drive our own business, it was up to each of us to choose where to give back. Giving back was part of the firm's culture, an integral part of it. Unlike most firms that say this, and many do, Ace was adamant that we, the employees, are the ones who give back. Of course, there were mechanisms in place to ensure we did. Primarily, every senior person had to give 4% of their pre-tax income to charity. Mandated tzedakah. No one cared where you gave it as long as it was a legitimate charity. That was up to you. All you had to do was show a copy of your tax return where your charitable donations were at least 4% of your pre-tax earnings. I know you guys are good in math, but to help you with it, it really isn't that burdensome if you think about it. If you earned $500,000, you had to give away $20,000. That's not a lot. But needless to say, we had a lot of big earners who were earning millions, and they too had to give 4% away. Amazingly, all the employees were taught the importance of giving back. It's just that apprenticeship model that continued. When you see your boss doing it, you do it too. I know you all have learned about tzedakah and the concept of tikkun olam. But imagine working in a culture where the hard work and giving is just prevalent. Again, the junior bankers who wanted to could turn a deaf ear or jump in. And because the big earners were giving large sums of money to charitable organizations, they started to care more and more how their money was being spent by these organizations. Hence, they tended to get deeply involved in the charities they supported. Just like having impact on a business, these people had impact on their communities. For most of us, it was way more than dollars and cents. Maybe Bear Stearns was ahead of its time. I read this weekend that Warren Buffett is being pushed on ESG issues. I know that at Rothschild, we're very focused on ESG issues these days. By that I mean having more of an impact on the world than just making money. And as you sit here this evening contemplating your future, you should all be thinking about how you're going to have an impact on the world or your community too. I was fortunate to work in a culture that taught me how to do that. When people ask me about my achievements in life, I don't speak about banking. I speak about my family first, and then I speak about what I've done for my community. I speak about when I chaired the school board at my children's Jewish day school. I was able to help put an infrastructure into a school that had been cobbled together over the years. I was able to professionalize it and build it in a way that now it can last and continue. That's what I'm proud of. To take the skills I learned in the workplace and be able to apply them into my community. I speak about George Jackson Academy, this middle school on the Lower East Side where I chair the board. The school gives young, bright, inner city boys of color an opportunity to become leaders. 100% of our kids graduate high school and 99% graduate college. How I use my banking connections I made, I learned how to raise money. We have to raise $3 million a year for this school. Well, that's what I do with most of my free time these days. I don't know any of these boys personally, not one. And I spend hundreds of hours during the course of the year to help this school. To me, it's simple. I want to give others that same opportunity that I had. I was privileged growing up, and I venture to say each and every one of you had the same privileges. I had parents who set an example for me. They read to me, they nurtured me, they instilled values on me. They gave me tools to succeed in the business world. I would say most of you are privileged in that same way. You've all decided to go to Syms School of Business. I'm sure many of you have aspirations of accumulating wealth, business wealth. Everybody thinks they go together. If you work hard and smart and go all in, you will achieve monetary success most likely. But hopefully you all will think about success more broadly than that. Just like Syms endowed your school so you can have the opportunity to be here today, I challenge each of you to think about success, not just what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for others. Terms like tzedakah and tikkun olam are not concepts that start and end at shul. They're how you define yourself in the business world and beyond. Look at the board of trustees of virtually any nonprofit, any school, any large university. Undoubtedly, they're made up of these same titans that I was so enamored with when I first started. I'm proud to be able to join them today in my personal endeavors. That's how I define my success. Well, I can't promise you'll have the same mentors as I did in the business world. By having attended Syms, you've already had these concepts ingrained in you, and now it's up to all of you to go out and use it. Good luck, and thank you for your time.
Steve, that was just wonderful and just so on point to everything that President Berman, myself, all the students here are aiming for and aspiring to and want to be inspired to achieve. So thank you so much, Steve. You exemplify everything that we admire.
Yeah.
We have a signed book, Life is a Startup, by our Dean, Noam Wasserman.
Thank you.
And a wonderful plaque for thanking you for being our guest speaker tonight to hopefully There'll be other opportunities, but to mark this particular speaking engagement, and please overlook the fact that this is to Steve Tipman. I don't know where Steve Tipman is today. So here you are, Steve
Thank you
Lipman.
very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Marcy.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to do that, but it's okay.
It's okay.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you are.
All right.